Poet Hope Netshivhambe has used her voice and talent to speak out on social issues affecting communities. Through her poetry, Hope challenges perceptions. She also encourages South Africans to find their purpose. The Venda-born artist has further found her niche as a thinker and a speaker. And Hope has performed in various stages in and around the country. She's one of the finalists in the 2017 Tshwane Speak Out Loud poetry competition. Hope lives by her self-coined mantra, "Do what you came for," which speaks of purpose. Now, joining us in studio to chat to us more about her love for poetry is the lady herself. Good morning to you, Hope. Thank you for joining us here on Afro World View.
Good morning, Abigail. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. Happy Women's Month.
Happy Women's Month to you.
Thank you. I think let's start by chatting about what this month means to you.
For me, it means celebrating the essence of women, but also because of everything that's been going around in our communities, it also means, just kind of bringing awareness to people and just all the issues of violence that have been going on, against women. So for me, I just want to be able to address some of those issues with, through my gifts and my talents. So just wanting a safer community for the women. So yeah.
And that's what you do. You speak of these issues that we are facing daily in your poetry. And I'm excited to learn a little bit more about that. So talk to me about where your love and passion for poetry started.
So it started off, my late sister, Madagato, was a poet. So when I was growing up, I used to watch her do her poems and just watch the excitement she would have whenever she was preparing to go do poems somewhere. So I fell in love with it in that way. I was just like, at some point I was just like, I think that's something I want to do as well. So that's pretty much how I got into it.
So do you enjoy the actual thinking and putting it down on paper more than being on stage and actually speaking it out there? What do you prefer?
Actually, I prefer both. I mean, the writing process is amazing. It's great to be able to write and just to think about things and make it exciting. But also, I love being on stage. I love sharing my poems. I love reciting, and I love the poetry space. Yeah.
Before we get into the poetry space in South Africa, because I think that's something we need to touch on and how it's evolved and grown and how it can still improve, talk to us about what you write about and what you speak about in these poems of yours.
I speak about social issues. I speak about God. I speak about life. I just try and also draw inspiration from people around me. I draw inspiration from some of my life stories of the people that are around me, what they've gone through, what they have faced. So I try and always bring that together, not to only make it about myself, but to just make it about people issues. I feel like that way it's a lot easier to kind of resonate with if you're listening and you're just like, okay, I think I can relate to that, because it's not just about me, but it's about issues that people are facing all around the world.
What are some of those issues that you feel need to be exposed and need to be discussed now that South Africa is facing?
Issues of violence against women, that's one of them that's very important. I think we need to look at that closely and try and get to some kind of a root of, okay, why is this happening? Because we can have awarenesses and talk about this needs to stop, and it does need to stop, but I think it's also important for us to zoom into the issue and say, what is the cause? What is happening? What must happen for us to get to a point where we can put this behind us? What is the process that we need to get these abusers and perpetrators to get into so that they cannot do what they're doing? So I think these are some of the most important things.
Sure, definitely. I mean, earlier this month we saw the hashtag total shutdown take place really across the country, but thousands of women marching in Pretoria at the union buildings. Watching that, what was your thoughts, and did that inspire you to write?
It did inspire me. I actually was a part of the march, so that was it was an amazing feeling to be a part of the march, but also it was also very, for me, it was also very emotional. I remember at some point we had like a moment of silence, and we just all of the women just sat, in the middle of the road in the streets, and it was as if even in that silence there was still a chant in all our hearts. And it was just to say, this is enough. We have had enough. This cannot continue any longer. And it was very, I felt it.
Yeah, the silence is deafening.
It was.
So let's chat a little bit about poetry in South Africa, in the poetry space. I mean, I suppose as kids we are exposed to poetry first in primary school and in high school when we are writing exams about specific poems. This has obviously turned into a bigger love and passion for you. But how have you seen the space develop, and are you happy with the pace?
The pace is very slow, but I mean, I believe now more than ever, it's really picking up. I wish it was picking up at a much faster pace, but there's some improvements. I think we've come a long way to where we used to be. But of course, as an artist, I would love to see people recognize poetry and see it as something of value. To see it as something of value, something that, like this is something somebody can make a living out of. I think if we respect it as much as we do with the music industry, that poetry deserves that much respect as the music industry. So I feel like I think it just has to be in the minds. People just have to approach it with that regard to say, this is art. This is valuable art, and this is art that we have to appreciate. We have to appreciate the art, but we also have to appreciate the artist.
Sure.
Yeah.
How difficult or how easy is it then to live off of your poetry and make it a full-blown career? Is that possible in South Africa?
I think it's possible. I know some people that are doing it, but I do think it's a journey to get to a point where you are really making a living and you're not hardly getting by. I think it takes a lot of work. Of course, you need to kind of put yourself out there. You need to show up in places. It's hard. It's not easy, and I don't think it's something anybody can get to without perseverance and just kind of pushing through and being resilient, because there's so many things that can discourage one from actually pursuing this route because it's so hard. And one of the reasons that it's so hard is because most people don't already see it as something, of value. But it is possible.
Okay. Quickly, what is your advice to aspiring poets?
My advice is simple. Just keep writing. Don't ever stop writing. Don't measure yourself to say, okay, maybe you look at your work now and you're like, I don't think this is good. But I personally believe that the bad poems are what makes way for good poems. So allow yourself to write, be good to yourself, be gentle with yourself, and just keep writing. Don't ever stop writing, no matter how bad you think it is. Just keep writing. That's how you improve. That's how you get better, because you're always improving. We're always supposed to be improving and getting better at our craft. So it's about saying, you know what, I'm not where I want to be, but I'm going to keep working on this until I get to where I want to be. And even when I get there, I don't stop. I don't say, well, I think I've made it. You still keep stretching yourself and looking for avenues on how you can become better as an individual and better as an artist, as a writer.
Definitely. Hope, thank you very much for joining us this morning and telling your story, and all the best for your future as well.
Thank you so much, Abigail. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. That was poet Hope Netshivhambe joining us here on Afro Worldview, talking to us about her poetry and her journey to where she is now. Also chatting a little bit about what Women's Month means to her. But stay tuned to Afro Worldview for further discussions.